Falcons are birds of prey in the genus Falco, which includes about 40 species. Falcons are widely distributed on all continents of the world except Antarctica, though closely related raptors did occur there in the Eocene. Adult falcons have thin, tapered wings, which enable them to fly at high speed and change direction rapidly. Fledgling falcons, in their first year of flying, have longer flight feathers, which make their configuration more like that of a general-purpose bird, such as a broad wing. This makes flying easier while learning the exceptional skills required to be effective hunters as adults. The falcons are the largest genus in the Falconinae subfamily of Falconidae, which itself also includes another subfamily comprising caracaras and a few other species. All these birds kill with their beaks, using a tomial tooth on the side of their beaks, unlike the hawks, eagles, and other birds of prey in the Accipitridae, which use their feet. The largest falcon is the gyrfalcon, up to 65 centimeters in length. The smallest falcon species is the pygmy falcon, which measures just 20 centimeters. As with hawks and owls, falcons exhibit sexual dimorphism, with the females typically larger than the males, thus allowing a wider range of prey species. Some small falcons with long, narrow wings are called hobbies, and some which hover while hunting are called kestrels. As is the case with many birds of prey, falcons have exceptional powers of vision. The visual acuity of one species has been measured at 2.6 times that of a normal human. Peregrine falcons have been recorded diving at speeds of 320 kilometers per hour to 100 miles per hour, making them the fastest moving creatures on Earth. The fastest recorded dive attained a vertical speed of 390 kilometers per hour to 140 miles per hour. The genus Falco was introduced in 1758 by the Swedish naturalist Carl Linnaeus in the 10th edition of his Systema Naturae. The type species is the merlin Falco columbarius. The genus name Falco is late Latin meaning of falcon from falx, falsus, meaning a sickle, referring to the claws of the bird. In Middle English and Old French, the title falcon refers generically to several captive raptor species. The traditional term for a male falcon is tercel British spelling or tiercel American spelling, from the Latin tertius third, because of the belief that only 1 in 3 eggs hatched a male bird. Some sources give the etymology as deriving from the fact that a male falcon is about 1/3 smaller than a female. Old French tiercelet. A falcon chick, especially one reared for falconry, still in its downy stage, is known as an aes, sometimes spelled aes. The word arose by mistaken division of Old French and nigh, from Latin presume nidiscus, nestling, from nidus, nest. The technique of hunting with trained captive birds of prey is known as falconry. Compared to other birds of prey, the fossil record of the falcons is not well distributed in time. The oldest fossils tentatively assigned to this genus are from the late Miocene, less than 10 million years ago. This coincides with the period in which many modern genera of birds became recognizable in the fossil record. The falcon lineage may, however, be somewhat older than this, and given the distribution of fossil and living falco taxa, is probably of North American, African, or possibly Middle Eastern or European origin. Falcons are not closely related to other birds of prey, and their nearest relatives are parrots and songbirds. Falcons are roughly divisible into 3 or 4 groups. The first contains the kestrels, probably excepting the American kestrel, usually small and stocky falcons of mainly brown upper side color and sometimes sexually dimorphic. 3 African species that are generally gray in color stand apart from the typical members of this group. The fox and greater kestrels can be told apart at first glance by their tail colors, but not by much else. They might be very close relatives and are probably much closer to each other than the lesser and common kestrels. Kestrels feed chiefly on terrestrial vertebrates and invertebrates of appropriate size, such as rodents, reptiles, or insects. The second group contains slightly larger on average species, the hobbies and relatives. These birds are characterized by considerable amounts of dark slate gray in their plumage. Their malar areas are nearly always black. They feed mainly on smaller birds. Third are the peregrine falcon and its relatives, variably sized, powerful birds that also have a black malar area except some very light color morphs, and often a black cap as well. They are very fast birds with a maximum speed of 390 kilometers per hour. Otherwise, they are somewhat intermediate between the other groups, being chiefly medium gray with some lighter or brownish colors on their upper sides. They are, on average, more delicately patterned than the hobbies, and if the hierofalcons are excluded, see below. This group typically contains species with horizontal barring on their undersides, as opposed to the other groups, where tail color varies much in general, but little according to evolutionary relatedness. The tails of the large falcons are quite uniformly dark gray with inconspicuous black banding and small white tips, though this is probably plesiomorphic. These large falco species feed on mid-sized birds and terrestrial vertebrates. Very similar to these, and sometimes included therein, are the 4 or so species of hierofalcon, literally hawk falcons. They represent taxa with, usually, more pheomelanins, which impart reddish or brown colors, and generally more strongly patterned plumage reminiscent of hawks. Their undersides have a lengthwise pattern of blotches, lines, or arrowhead marks, while these 3 or 4 groups, loosely circumscribed, are an informal arrangement. They probably contain several distinct clades in their entirety. A study of mtDNA cytochrome B sequence data of some kestrels identified a clade containing the common kestrel and related malar striped species, to the exclusion of such taxa as the greater kestrel, which lacks a malar stripe, the lesser kestrel, which is very similar to the common, but also has no malar stripe, and the American kestrel, which has a malar stripe, but its color patterned, apart from the brownish back, and also the black feathers behind the ear, which never occur in the true kestrels, are more reminiscent of some hobbies. The malar striped kestrels apparently split from their relatives in the Gelasian, roughly to 0.0 to 2.5 million years ago, and are seemingly of tropical East African origin. The entire true kestrel group, excluding the American species, is probably a distinct and quite young clade, as also suggested by their numerous apomorphies. Other studies have confirmed that the hierofalcon are a monophyletic group and that hybridization is quite frequent, at least in the larger falcon species. Initial studies of mtDNA cytochrome B sequence data suggested that the hierofalcon are basal among living falcons. The discovery of NUMT proved this earlier theory erroneous. In reality, the hierofalcon are a rather young group originating at the same time as the start of the main kestrel radiation, about Tamia. Very little fossil history exists for this lineage. However, the present diversity of very recent origin suggests that this lineage may have nearly gone extinct in the recent past. The phylogeny and delimitations of the peregrine and hobby groups are more problematic. Molecular studies have only been conducted on a few species, and the morphologically ambiguous taxa have often been little researched. The morphology of the syrinx, which contributes well to resolving the overall phylogeny of the Falconidae, is not very informative in the present genus. Nonetheless, a core group containing the peregrine and Barbary falcons, which, in turn, group with the hierofalcon and the more distant prairie falcon, which was sometimes placed with the hierofalcon, though it is entirely distinct biogeographically as well as at least most of the typical hobbies, are confirmed to be monophyletic as suspected. Given that the American falco species of today belong to the peregrine group, or are apparently more basal species, the initially most successful evolutionary radiation seemingly was a holarctic one that originated possibly around Central Eurasia or in northern Africa. One or several lineages were present in North America by the early Pliocene at latest. The origin of today's major falco groups, the typical hobbies and kestrels, for example, or the peregrine hierofalcon complex, or the aplomado falcon lineage, can be quite confidently placed from the Miocene-Pliocene boundary through the Zanclean and Piacenzian, and just into the Gelasian, that is from to 0.425.3 Mia. On the malar striped kestrels diversified, some groups of falcons, such as the hierofalcon complex and the peregrine Barbary superspecies, have only evolved in more recent times. The species of the former seem to be 120,000 years old or so. Unlike your average chicken, peregrine falcon eggs are red due to the presence of protoporphyrin in the shell. Female falcons do most of the incubating, but male falcons take over when it's time for mom to feed. Falcons are the cocky speedsters of the animal kingdom, clocking in at over 240 miles per hour, 386 kilometers per hour during death-defying dives. During World War II, these magnificent birds were trained to intercept and take down enemy carrier pigeons. With eyesight that can put an eagle to shame, some falcon species can spot prey from as far as 3 miles away. Falcons sport a beak with a specialized notch called a tomial tooth, which helps them slice and dice their prey's spinal cord, ensuring a swift and efficient kill. Falcons further their glowing reputation by being able to fly upside down. Falcons are natural-born hunters, employing a technique called stooping, where they plunge from dizzying heights at crazy speeds to snatch their prey midair. Falcons have been historically used for falconry, a fancy word for humans enlisting these feathered accomplices to help them bag small game. Falcons flaunt specialty feathers called filiplumes that act as sensory organs, giving them feedback on their mid-flight body positioning. Lovebirds of the sky, falcons are monogamous creatures that form lifelong partnerships, raising their adorable chicks together. Falcons have a sophisticated respiratory system that's the envy of joggers everywhere. A female peregrine falcon lays her eggs on at ledges or looks for abandoned nests on cliff faces or tall structures. Their nesting sites may be as low as 25 feet or as high as 1,300 feet. This is about the height of the Empire State Building in New York. One of the most exciting facts about falcons is that they mate for life. These birds usually reach sexual maturity after 2 or 3 years. Once they have chosen a partner, the falcons make sure to go back to the same nesting place every year. When a pair of falcons go through the period of courtship, they fly together and display a series of complex and unique movements. These include types of acrobatics in the air, diving, and spiral-like movements. During a courtship flight, if a male falcon catches a bird for prey during a courtship flight, it will use its talon to throw the prey to the female falcon midair. The female, in turn, flies upside to catch the prey. This behavior is typical during their courtship. The peregrine falcon, in particular, has a strong relationship with humans. As a result, it has become one of the easiest birds to train, with humans using falcons to perform tasks like chasing pigeons away at airports. One of the main reasons that falcons are some of the most powerful birds on Earth comes from their eyesight. Researchers have discovered that the average falcon's eyesight is 8 times more powerful than a human's. Their sight allows them to see their prey from great distances and catch them with incredible accuracy. Egyptians used the peregrine falcon's head to represent the sun god Ra, with the head of the falcon atop the body of a man. Additionally, Europeans in the Middle Ages viewed the peregrine falcon as a majestic bird, giving it the same importance as a prince in the birds of prey hierarchy.